Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss something very different from our routine discussion. So we all know regarding cancer. So whenever we are talking regarding it, the first thing which comes in our mind is their growth. So here our discussion is going to address two different type of questions which I found very interesting. So here the first question which we are going to address is, how did cancer cells differ in their energy metabolism from normal cells? So there are two different metabolisms which is happening between the cancer cells and normal cells. We will address what it is. And then the second question, why they are choosing it. I found these two things very important or very interesting regarding the cancer cells. So let's see in detail. This is our normal cell. And here we will be having our endoplasmic reticulum around the nucleus. And here we can see the Golgi apparatus which helps in the protein packaging and translation. And here comes the most important thing, that is our mitochondria, which forms the powerhouse of the cell. And this is our cytoplasm. So this is the normal cell. We all know that every cell in our body requires its own energy and they uses few metabolism to create its own energy. So simple, we all obtain energy from glucose and this glucose is broken down into ATP. So ATP is the form of energy. So here in normal cells, ATP is produced in two different ways. So here in normal cell, the energy is produced in two different ways. One is oxidative phosphorylation and another one is glycolysis. This oxidative phosphorylation is also called as cellular respiration. And this glycolysis is easily called as fermentation. And here this oxidative phosphorylation mainly occurs in the presence of oxygen, that is aerobic conditions, and this glycolysis occurs only during the anaerobic conditions. So our cell will automatically switch to glycolysis whenever there is anaerobic condition. So this oxidative phosphorylation happens in mitochondria. We are not going to discuss in detail with this oxidative phosphorylation and glycolysis. So here this glycolysis mainly happens in the cytoplasm of the cell. Simply in oxidative phosphorylation, one glucose molecule is converted into 36 ATP, that is tremendous amount of energy. And here in case of glycolysis, one glucose molecule is converted into only 2 ATP and lactic acid, 2 molecules of lactic acid. So here in case of glycolysis, we will be having only less amount of energy along with lactic acid. So here I will give you an example for better understanding. So there is one human being. His cells are undergoing oxidative phosphorylation under aerobic condition. So once he is doing heavy exercises, his muscles would be requiring lot of oxygen and there will be reduction of blood flow also. So because of increased demand for oxygen, there will be anaerobic environment that will directly switch these cells into glycolysis pathway. Because of glycolysis, we will be having less energy, and adding to that, we will be having lactic acid also secreted into the muscles, and that lactic acid produces muscle fatigue at last. And after doing exercises, if the human being is going for rest, then slowly he will recover into oxidative phosphorylation again. So the muscle fatigues which were produced during the exercises is mainly because of the cells switching to glycolysis and producing lot of lactic acids and less amount of ATP. And once the person is taking rest, again the oxygen demand will be equalized and that oxygen demand will automatically switch the cell into oxidative phosphorylation. So this is the exact cycle in the normal cell. So here comes our topic of discussion. It is none other than cancer cells. The most interesting thing regarding our cancer cells, they choose glycolysis even in the presence of oxygen, like aerobic glycolysis, which is very unique for the cancer cells. So just imagine the cancer cells usually grow a lot, so they require a lot of energy, but because of glycolysis they will be getting only 2 ATP and 2 lactic acid. So that was very interesting and it was observed by the great scientist Warburg. This effect is called as Warburg effect. So here our cancer cells exactly act like a camel. So we all know that camel will be having a long desert trip, and after that it will drink lot of water and save it for the future purpose. The same way the cancer cells, even though it requires lot of energy, it will be using glycolysis, but here that is the thing is they drink lot of glucose whenever it is available. This process of active uptake of glucose by the cancer cells were used in our cancer detection technique, that is positron emission tomography. So in case of positron emission tomography, we will measure how much glucose is being consumed by the cells. The active cancer cells guzzle the glucose much faster than the normal surrounding cells, and this PET scan will easily pick up the hot spots of cancer cells present. Then comes our second question of concern. Even though the cancer cells require a lot of energy for their metabolism and for their growth, why they are particularly choosing the less effective glycolysis for their survival? So normally every cell in our body requires energy for their growth. Along with the energy, they require building blocks. So in case of oxidative phosphorylation, the carbon present in the glucose molecules are completely metabolized to energy and carbon dioxide. So this energy is none other than the 36 ATPs produced from the glucose, and this carbon dioxide produced during the end of oxidative phosphorylation gets exhaled. But in case of glycolysis, only some amount of carbon gets metabolized and the other leftover carbon gets metabolized to the formation of amino acids and fatty acids. In case of cancer cells, they are rapidly growing and they require a lot of energy along with the building blocks. So this too can be obtained only if the cancer cells choose glycolysis pathway. So this is the answer for our second question of concern. So I found this cancer metabolism very interesting when I was going through the book The Cancer Code by Dr. Fung. So if you also have any such type of different or interesting questions, you can comment below. We can continue our discussion, and thank you so much. Happy learning.